Hey, my name's Brandon Hoffman with the Hoffman Group, and I want to personally thank you for allowing us to represent you in the sale of your home. I've put together the short video to walk you through the documents you'll be signing in order for us to market and sell your home for you. I'm afraid it's not very exciting, but it's paperwork, so I'm going to do the best I can for you. And of course, we've got additional video content on the sales and closing process if you want to check out the other videos on our channel. And of course, I'd love for you to go ahead and hit that subscribe button. Once again, thank you, and let's look at that paperwork.
Once we send the DocuSign, you should receive an email that looks like this. You just simply need to click on Review Documents, and it's going to open up DocuSign so you can begin signing. So after you click on the link, this is what's going to open up. You'll click Continue, and then once you press Start, it'll take you to the first field you have to sign, and once you sign, it'll take you to the second field, and so on and so forth. However, I'm not going to click that yet. I'm going to go through the paperwork with you. I'm going to give you the short version because you do sign a lot of papers when you're listing a house. In fact, more than when you actually sign at closing. So this is the disclosure of real estate brokerage relationships in South Carolina. Once you sign an agency agreement, you become a client. Client level duties as defined by South Carolina are obedience, loyalty, disclosure, confidentiality, accounting, reasonable care and skill, as well as advice, counsel, and assistance in negotiations. Usually it's going to be single agency, meaning we only represent you in the transaction. However, we do occasionally get into dual agency, of which there's two forms. The first is disclosed dual agency, meaning we would represent you and the buyer in the same transaction. Very rarely do we do that. What's more common is designated agency. We are in a large office. If another agent within our office represents the buyer and we represent you, the seller, that would be designated agency. In dual agency, we become more of a mediator because we can't take one side over the other. But in designated agency, we represent you, whereas the other agent represents the buyer. It is your choice on how you want to proceed should it arise. So if dual agency situation comes up, we'll disclose it, and you can choose at that time how you'd like to proceed. The easy exit agreement basically states that we've promised you certain services, and if we don't deliver and you're not satisfied, notify us, give us a chance to correct it, and if we're unable to do so, you can fire us, and you don't owe anything. We're also providing a communication guarantee that we'll give you regular updates, and if we don't, we'll reduce the commission. The seller's net. So this is going to be your sales price. These are your mandatory closing costs. It'll be commissions, attorney's fees, taxes, and negotiable expenses. Add those expenses together, $34,650 minus a $500,000 sales price, and our made-up mortgage payoff, and this is $150,000. So after paying off everything, including the mortgage, the seller would be left with $315,000 and some change. And of course, you see we've got several categories here to show you the best case, worst case scenarios. The exclusive right to sell is the form where you actually hire us. So this would be Brandon hiring Brandon to sell Main Street, USA. This is going to be your start date and end date. This is the property address. This is an acknowledgement that we went over agency disclosure in South Carolina. This house is worth $1 million. 6.5% commission. Now, let me talk about the commission here real quick. This is going to show up on the second page too. This is the total commission. Out of that, we'll pay the co-broke to the buyer's agent. And we are protected that if we introduce a buyer to the property and that buyer closes on the property, we have a 180-day protection period. That doesn't mean that this is a 180-day agreement or extends for 180 days after closing. This is exclusive to buyers that we have introduced to the property or may be under contract that should this agreement expire before closing. If you relist with another agent, this becomes void. I mentioned the total commission in this scenario would be 6.5. We would have the co-broke listed here on what we're compensating the buyer agency, and then the buyer broker, and then there's transaction brokerage, which we rarely see in South Carolina. But if for some reason that buyer is not a client, this is the percentage of the, and this is not in addition to the 6.5 you saw on the first page. This is a part of the 6.5 on the first page. Permission to put a lockbox, yes. We're going to market the property. We'll have a sign on the ground, all that. You'll get a copy of everything. We're going to screen inquiries. You're agreeing to do a property disclosure as required by South Carolina, and lead-based paint if applicable. I'll go over those forms later. Any fixtures stay with the property unless otherwise stated in the contract. You agree to make the property available for buyers' inspections. You understand the commissions are negotiable. If there's any special stipulations, they'll be here. If we get sideways before anybody sues anybody, we'll try to go through mediation first. We do carry errors and omissions, and we don't discriminate. And if you need legal counsel, we'll send you to a professional in that field if we're not qualified to provide the info. You'll sign here, initial here. Residential input sheet, this is just the data that goes into MLS. It's like about the property, the square footage, bedrooms, bathrooms, school district, and all that. So obviously I didn't fill this one out. Yours may or may not be completely filled out. Sometimes we just get you to initial the first 4 pages and sign the last one, and then we'll come back through and fill it out directly on MLS. This is your property disclosure. Your address goes here. You'll initial the bottom of the page. You're going to check if you're aware of something that needs to be repaired. You will check yes. So if there was an issue with the water supply that needed to be repaired, you would check yes. On page 4, there will be an explanation area for any where you've checked yes. If you are not aware of any repairs needed, you will check no. This is going to be about the house. If you have, in this case, water supplies at county, city, private, well, same thing here. It's about the house. Are there any repairs required to the roof, to the gut that you're aware of that are needed for the roof, the gutter? If you don't have gutters, obviously, a no. Are you aware of any foundation repairs? The age of the structure, the year the roof was put on. Some more, are you aware of repairs? Yes or no. More of the same. This is just going to be if you are aware of any problems caused by termites, so on and so forth, if you have a termite bond or pest management plan on the house. More yes or no's if you're aware of any repairs or violations. Just some more summary. If it was a rental property, you may have something here. If you have covenants and restrictions in your neighborhood, this will be yes. You will do the residential property disclosure statement addendum. If you checked yes anywhere, you have a chance to write why you checked yes. For instance, if you had a roof leak and you checked yes, you would say roof is leaking by flashing around chimney right here. Is the house owner occupied, vacant, bankruptcy, so on and so forth. Check the appropriate box. You'll sign here. If there are 2 parties that are owners, you'll each have one of these to complete. So don't worry if you only see your initials on here. The other seller will have their own email to execute. This is if you have covenants and restrictions, the property condition disclosure statement. It'll be the address, the HOA dues, and then some more yeses or nos. A lot of these don't apply to single family homes around Columbia because there's some coastal zone management act questions, or some of them are geared towards condos, but just answer yes if there's anything applicable or no if not. Again, you have a chance to explain any yeses here and sign. If your house was built prior to 78, you have to complete a lead-based paint disclosure. If you don't know of any lead-based paint, you'll initial, check the second box, initial, select the second box, sign the bottom. You may not, if your house was built after 1978, we may not send you a lead-based paint addendum. Utility providers, because you're going to have to give those to the buyer to transfer at closing, we just go ahead and get that up front from you, so just check the appropriate box. If you want to place a home warranty on the home or not. Home warranties cover most mechanical, plumbing, electrical issues not covered by your homeowner's insurance. So if you want the seller coverage, you can do that. And you'll either accept the warranty or you decline the warranty, and you're going to sign there, and that's the paperwork. So your paperwork may vary slightly. You may have some documents not listed here. You may not have some of these documents if it's not applicable to your property. But in general, these are the documents that you'll be receiving through DocuSign to list your home with us. Again, if you have questions, because I did give you the short version here, we encourage you to call and ask. Don't just wonder or whatever. We're always happy to help out. Again, thank you so much for watching the video and giving us the opportunity to sell your home. We look forward to working with you.